Good day, sir. I am Maria Isabel M. Cañete, and I am here to answer all the 15 oral questions. First, why is fire extinguisher necessary in building establishment? Fire extinguisher play a vital role in any fire protection plan in any environment. They are our first aid response to fire and can help prevent catastrophic damage to property and even loss of life. Second, discuss the classes of fire extinguisher. First, Class A, solid materials such as wood or paper, fabric, and some plastics. Class B, liquids or gas such as alcohol, ether, gasoline, or grease. Class C, electrical failure from appliances, electronic equipment, and wiring. Class D, metallic substances such as sodium, titanium, zirconium, or magnesium. Class K, grease or oil fires, specifically from cooking. 3. What are the different parts of fire extinguishers? The main parts of fire extinguishers are 5. 1 or 2 tanks, a valve assembly, a hose or a nozzle, an extinguishing agent, and a propellant. The tanks are made of metal. They contain the extinguishing agent and the propellant. They can be manufactured by extrusion or by calendering, deep drilling, and welding. The tank is linked to the valve assembly through a sleeve. The valve regulates the extinguishing agent flow. It is composed of a body, a handle to lift the fire extinguisher, a locking pin, a release lever, and a deep tube. In stored pressure fire extinguisher, we can also find a pressure gauge or a pressure indicator. The body of the valve is made of stamped brass, molten aluminum, or highly resistant technical resins. Number 4. Distinguish service test from hydrostatic test. A hydrostatic test is a pressure test in which the pipe or other component is pressurized to evaluate its integrity. This test is used to evaluate the structural integrity of pipeline or other pressure-containing infrastructure. Hydrostatic testing involves isolating that portion of the pipeline, undergoing testing, filling it with water, and then pressurizing the line to specified pressure to check for leaks. Discuss the types of ventilation. There are 2 types of ventilation, a vertical and horizontal. Their names refer to the general locations of the intended exit points of the heat and smoke to be ventilated. Vertical ventilation takes place through holes cut in the roof, typically by truck companies during the early stage of a fire in a process known collectively as roof operations, while horizontal ventilation usually takes place through doors and windows. The goal of each is to clear heat and smoke to increase chances of survival for trapped occupants and so that the water lines can be advanced into the structure to more effectively battle the flames. Number 6. What is the difference between fire exposure and life exposure? The difference between fire exposure and life exposure is that an exposure is a fire resulting from another fire outside the building, structure, or vehicle. A fire that extends to an outside property from a building, structure, or vehicle. The life exposures are the problems and potential problems that the fire presents to people. These people include firefighters, occupants, other emergency responders such as police, and curious bystanders. What makes hose appliances different from hose tools? A fire hose appliance is any piece of hardware used in conjunction with fire hose for the purpose of delivering water. Water flows through appliances but not through tools. Number 8. Explain the types of ladders. Short or first floor ladder. The first floor is normally used to access the first floor of the first story of the building. It can also be placed on the fire and rescue vehicle. The first floor ladder is normally used for ascending and descending the equipment as well as the person doing the operation of the fire rescue. It was made by wood, but now aluminum is used to make these ladders. Number 2. Hook ladder. It is also very important in the fire service. It is called the hook ladder because it has two hooks in the head, side attached to the arms of the ladders. Therefore, it can be easily hung with windows and other ventilation places. Lightweight, even only firemen can use it. Number 3. Scaling ladder. It is the shortest and lightweight ladder. It is used in narrow places. Extension ladder. It is the most important ladder in fire service because it can be extended easily. There are three types: 30 feet extension ladder, 35 feet extension ladder, and 45 extension ladder. Number 9. Which forms of ground ladders do you think the most commonly used at present? Why? Every fire apparatus will be equipped with at least two ground ladders, a straight single roof ladder, and an extension ladder. This is mandated by the National Fire Protection Association or NFPA 1931. Standard for manufacturers' designs of fire department ground ladders for apparatus specification. And the most common ladder that is used in firefighting is extension ladder because you can use it to extend to climb at a higher building. Number 10. Why is ladder necessary in firefighting operation? Ground ladders provide firefighters a means of safe access and egress above and below ground for rescue, ventilation, and firefighting purposes. It may also be used as bridging, ladder drain, catch. Ladders have a major role in the fire service. A member must be able to ascend and descend from one level to another when performing emergency operations. Stairways are ordinarily accessible, but sometimes they may be involved in fire or other hazards. Number 11. Discuss the four general classes of fire causes. Class A. Ordinary solid combustible such as paper, wood, cloth, and some plastics. Class B. Flammable liquids such as alcohol, ether, oil, gasoline, and grease, which are best extinguished by smothering. Class C. Electrical equipment, appliances, and wiring in which the use or non-conductive extinguishing agent prevents injury from electrical shock. Do not use water. Class D. Certain flammable metallic substances such as sodium and potassium. These materials are normally found in the medical center. What is arson? Arson is a crime of willfully and maliciously setting on fire or charring Number 12. What is arson? Arson is a crime of willfully and maliciously setting fire to or charring property. Though the act typically involves buildings, the term can also refer to the intentional burning of other things such as motor vehicles, watercraft, or forests. The crime is typically classified as a felony, with instances involving a greater degree of risk to human life or property carrying a stricter penalty. Arson which results in death can be further prosecuted as manslaughter or murder. A common motive for arson is to commit insurance fraud. In such cases, a person destroys their own property by burning it and then lies about the cause in order to collect against their insurance policy. Number 13. Why fire should be investigated. The role of a fire investigation is to identify the event that brought together the combustible, the oxidizer, and the source of ignition that started the fire. Causes of fire can be natural, accidental, deliberate, or undetermined. Arson investigation is important as it helps to determine if a fire was accidental or deliberately set. It will help to determine if a crime was committed and hopefully bring a perpetrator to justice. Number 14. What are the contents of the fire report? To write a good report on a fire incident, the fire safety personnel should ensure that the fire incident report answers the basic questions about the incident to paint a clear picture: who, what, where, when, and why. When, why, and how. Presents only factual, accurate, objective, and complete information. Uses grammar, punctuation, and spelling. And it's written concisely and gets straight to the point, and written in standard English or your country's official business language. Further, firefighting personnel can adapt the fire's methods of fire incident and investigation report writing to help effectively meet these characteristics of a good report. F stands for first observation or findings. What information was given at dispatch? What was the weather like? What was the brief on the initial report? Which commands were given? These types of questions help the report and help remind you of important details down the road. I stands for investigation or initial actions. The questions are: what directions were given to responding units? Was force entry needed to address the emergency? How was care delivered to occupants who were injured? Recording accurate details of these actions in your incident report will prove to be important in defending a fire emergency response when being questioned years later. R stands for response to actions. Did you make a rescue or lead occupants to safety? Was suppression of the fire achievement with the deadline selected? What happened to the smoke once the ventilation was established? These are sampled questions that the fire incidents report should answer in summary. If questions arise at a later time, the details of the responses may be the only requisite to get accurate information about the incident. And last, E stands for evaluation. An evaluation of the incident scene and the end result is the next step. Did you encounter a hydrant that failed to function? Were there parking or access issues? Crowd control, hydrants across 6 lanes of the busy traffic? Taking note of the external factors that affected the fire incident, response not only describes the incident, but also produces a historical reference for fire safety issues encountered that require code or legislative changes. And last, S, special statements. Last but certainly not least is the section on special statements. What was done prior to leaving? To whom was the scene turned over to? Was it the police, the homeowner, or the fire investigation unit? This is also a good avenue to list any issues that played a role in the fire incident. Number 15. When do you consider that a fire is arson? It can be defined as deliberate and malicious burning of property having three main elements. First, there has been burning of property. Second, the burning is incendiary in origin. And finally, the burning was started with the intent of destroying the property.